Welcome, everyone. I hope you're enjoying your slightly dreary but still fairly nice Sunday. We're going to hang out, talk about some art, and go Jeffrey Wilcox Paclipan.
Yep.
And Jeff's one of our newer studio artists, and this is his first open studios with us. So we're excited to get to know him and talk about some artwork. So just to give a brief background, Jeff Paclipan received Associates in Art degree from International Fine Arts College in Miami, Florida. His gallery's solo and group exhibitions include Hathaway Contemporary Gallery, Mason Fine Art, Galerie Tew, Lowe Gallery, Mammal Gallery, Life on Mars, New York, Brooklyn, Waterfront Artists Coalition, New York. Atlanta area exhibitions and installations in museums and public installations include MOCA GA, Slotin Folkfest, Chastain Arts Center, EBD4, Fulton Country Arts and Culture Acquisition Program, Fulton County Aviation and Community Cultural Center, Sewell Mill Library and Cultural Center, High Rise Show with ShowerHaus Gallery, the Atlanta Financial Center, Lenox Square, ARTFIELDS 2020. Paclipan mixed media college submissions Salvador Del Mundo was highlighted in a Miami Herald art review of the 36th Hortt Museum Exhibition in 1994. Recent group exhibitions in 2020 include Mint Gallery, Marietta Cobb Museum of Art, and currently an artist in resident here with us at Atlanta Contemporary. He is a multidisciplinary process-based artist, compelled to create objects with non-traditional materials and imbue them with greater meaning. His development as an artist has followed the same path as his ongoing quest to coherently embrace his definition of self. He was born in the Philippines and now lives with us in Atlanta. So thank you, Jeffrey. So go ahead and start us off. You are welcome to either start talking about any artwork particular, or if there's any background or anything that you wanted to add into that as well.
Okay, so first of all, I'm wearing this magenta tie in celebration to the new political shift. I'm not going to get political, but I understand red and blue make magenta. And I seem to have a lot of magenta in my work, and it's a version of magenta. So I wanted to wear that. And since I'm encompassing all my art, finally coming around in full circle as an artist, I thought, well, why not wear something? So it just gives me a little bit of a boost. It's an alter ego, and it kind of lifts me up, and hopefully it's a visual stimulator while I ramble on, but we'll see.
Well, and also too, it's fairly indicative of your art as well.
Yeah, trying to be playful. Now, it all started, we all have a different story. So what's helped me over the decades, and it's, again, coming full circle. I turned 50 a couple of years ago. So this was a transition from 25 to 50. A lot of things changed for me. So around 25, I had some health issue. I survived Hurricane Andrew. It was pretty traumatic. And there was another life-changing issue. But the point was I started to face death. And so I did a show. I might show you some works here. I would like to walk through the studio. This is going to be very cathartic for me. And a couple of weeks ago, Ethan came to visit my space. I've been here since September, mid-September, before we could even announce it. And it was hard to not tell anybody. But it took me all that time to actually get comfortable with the space. So when Ethan came over to visit, just to get an idea of what I do and who I am as an artist, I ran in my studio an hour before we started and just filled my van up with stuff, and I pulled out things. And so this actually is a great space for me. Like I said, I never had a studio space away from home. So being at home is where I usually am making things. And so I'm filling the space out, and it's actually like a think tank now. I can focus. I may not even actually make anything, but I can look and absorb the years of work. And again, I'll walk through some stuff to explain some of that.
Awesome. Well, go ahead and start us off with some artwork.
Okay, I'll just keep talking because I don't know if I should stop or you just jut in. Because I realize a half an hour isn't that long. I had an hour Zoom yesterday, and I have a lot of more personal stories in that one. So I'll just highlight some stuff, and I learned from that. And I'm going to try to keep my phone. I'm using my phone to not shake as much, because that's one of the things an artist friend said, stop shaking. So I propped it up for you now, but I will eventually walk around and make sure I don't trip.
Okay.
But if I do, it'd be interesting.
Oh, that's great.
So I'll start with, there's a story that they just posted at the Atlanta JC. Gail O'Neill contacted me, and I had posted it on Instagram. And the funny thing with Instagram is I started 4 years ago. We could talk a little bit about my experience here in Atlanta. But initially, I've always been one of those quiet, shy artists. I internalize everything, and I would, as empaths, some of you understand, I just am a big observer. So over the decades, I would take things in. So around 25 is that altering, life-changing point in my life where I faced the idea of death. And so I did a series of works, which I have a piece here that I guess I'll show you. I'll start walking around. It was a mixed media piece, and I did about a dozen pieces. I'll try to make sure it doesn't. And I incorporated my my face. I don't know if you can see this, in clay, and I used spray paint and metal and found objects. And anyways, the show was cathartic because I was able to filter through death. Long story short is a friend of mine had a brother in, I think it was South Carolina University, one of the universities. He said, have a show. So I did. And this is before, having a profession, I think. He just said, you have a body of work, we need artists. So I had the show, but the students that came in, they were required to write something. And I just remember them feeling depressed and sad. And they said, oh, are you dying? Do you know anyone dying? So that changed my perception of, okay, I'm going to do art that's not as depressing, but we need to all go through stuff like that at some point. So also I wanted to chime in that I'm interested in artists as far as where did they get their art talent, or whatever you want to call it, from family or their and I got it from my dad, but he hid it. He never really talked about it. So years later, I found a piece of his, and I was shocked. He just had it in a box, but this is one of them. This is from 1960. And the weird thing is he never just ever talked about it. It's called Ides of March. And that's how shy and repressed he was. I don't know if he was really repressed, but he just wasn't expressive. So I got that from him, and he went to join the military. And there's a story in there I told in my art exchange Zoom. You can check that out on Facebook, their art exchange. And then so I'll fast forward to I'm just doing art and not talking to people and just keeping to myself. That's the place I would go to deal with the world. And so when the COVID crisis hit, I reverted to my, and I heard the story of Agnes Martin, who's she's good at editing all her work, like destroying anything she didn't want to deal with. So she had high standards. So I destroyed a lot of work, but I pulled up a piece that I had forgotten. This is a story they wrote that had AJC. And this is a self-portrait. And at the time, it just shows you that I like to do realistic and painting. And I don't consider myself, a serious painter, but I doubt the time it takes to just do this was, I was a state of mind of sitting still and just focusing and not having to deal with anything else in life. So I caught myself just drawing for hours. And here's another drawing I did. So there's a story with that I'll tell you, I just looked at magazines. So pop culture and fashion magazines. My sister had all these magazines. I would just draw. So that's where I was coming from, this tight, like focused, keeping it by myself and having the radio on. So the music was important to me. So we'll zoom over to, let's see. This is the Salvador Del Mundo piece here. It's a collage from reflective, sparkling, and I'm finding there's keywords in my work, reflective, bright. I'm sure some more words will pop up. So I'll zoom over here. Oh, this is my space, by the way, everyone. I've been posting. It's pretty empty, but now it has been empty, but this is with all my stuff in here. I work with puzzles. I'll explain some of that. I'm still experimenting with a wrapping paper. I work three-dimensional. Here's a piece that I did that's, as you can see, I initially started with paint and glues. And so I started to experiment with layering. As you can see here, this has a resin pour, which is new to me at the time, a couple of years ago. Then I'll fast forward to here. I'm always at secondhand stores. So I went to find things like toys, and I don't know if you can see that, embellish them with whatever I could find. I find myself working with a lot of adhesives. I'm a house painter, so I kind of use what I have around. That was my first toy with these transparent Christmas-like ornament stuff. So as you can see, I just covered what I can. I never thought of myself as a sculptor, but it just turned out that way. And so I'm coming back to the COVID crisis. We were all in the lockdown mode. And so I decided to, I started a series of paper pieces. This is the first one here. Sorry if it's a little shaky. And it looks strange, but it was a version of this piece. And this is gift wrapping paper. I'm loving the reflectiveness. I don't know if it's too bright. The dimensionality of it, there's ribbons in there. I'm going to try to hopefully not make you too dizzy, but the effects of it, the minute I created a form, it was something very interesting to me. So this was in last June. That was my first piece. The second piece is up here. They're all kind of hiding up here. But anyways, I just continued in March with the pieces, and I've been experimenting with that. They're called Paper People series. So that's one thing I'm going to commit to being here at the Contemporary is paper. I'm still going to work with the puzzles, but I'm going to do new versions of the puzzles and push that. So I found this tree table, which is amazing, that I've been using. It's perfect height. I think they used it for a kids' art class. So I've got one of my largest pieces on here that's glass beads with paint and confetti. So I don't know if you can see this, but it's very reflective. I call it luminous landscape. And again, I like positive words: luminous, iridescent, reflective, gift paper. So I'm also out in the tropical weather, and he's a master at color, but these are just versions of things I've learned from him, but I didn't want to, copy, or not copy, but I've been influenced by him. So the techniques I use on that, I've transferred to paper, and I like to build. So I'm very physical with my work. I like to sand and hammer and saw and all that stuff. So I'm outside for the paperworks. And then as far as the puzzle works, there's some over here. So I'm kind of jumping around. I am usually inside, and I'm methodically layering the puzzles. And this one I painted. So I've got that rhythmic pattern going. This I painted. So as a house painter, I like to get in there, and I'm using iridescent paint. And I'm going to try more sculptural dimensional work. That's another word, dimension. And I'm pretty sure now, as I'm getting more connected to my material with my story is that I want to be dimensional. I want to be more than what people have defined, because people want to put you in a box. They want to define you. I want to show others that you could be more than who you think you are, and you don't have to stick to one. Don't be worried or scared. Just try. I try new things, and I'm actually excited about the next series of work because I'm going to work with sheeting, transparent sheeting, plastic, and also other versions of the puzzles. This is a series here that I tried while we were during the COVID shutdown called Cocoon. This one's hanging, but it's I don't know what it is exactly, but it's the ideal of we all had a shelter, and then you start to look at where you're living, and you start to clean up around you, and you know a lot of people were gardening, and so you got to create this place that you know will comfort you and you feel connected to. So this was the first one of the Cocoon, and it's again holographic paper, which is another thing. I explained that a little on Facebook, but I'm also, this series with the wood and the paint was called Kimono, and there's something about fabric and the look of clothing. So I did this hanging rack of, and again, I just do it. I don't plan too much. And I thought, well, I'm using the plastic sheeting, I'm using the gift paper, and here is the blue and the red, the magenta. I'm experimenting also on veneer wood, veneer wood, and building a frame. I like that rough hand, the touch of the hand kind of look to work. And then this is a piece that I found a sculptural Statue of Liberty, which I was really excited about. And this is called Give Me Liberty. So again, when you chant some of my titles, you're actually saying it to yourself. So I say it to myself, give me liberty, give me liberty. And I wanted to give the feeling of like firecrackers, celebration of color, dimensionality. So, and again, I don't know what kind of puzzles I'll end up with. So I just wanted to show you the dimensionality of that. So it comes out about a foot. All right, so I'll stop walking around too much because you might get a little dizzy. And yeah, so Ethan, if you want to, while I kind of prop myself, ask me anything.
Of course. Well, thank you for showing us a quick and dirty run through of all your artwork and your practice and all the things that you like to work with. One of the things that I really enjoy about your art, and also with our previous conversation, is how explorative you are with your process, and also this this just excitement of like getting very inspired by your materials, and you bring such an energy to your artwork that like as the viewer, I get excited with you.
Okay.
And so could you maybe elaborate a little bit more on that explorative process for you? Like, I know that you use it as an outlet to better understand yourself and to display that to the world. So could you elaborate just a little bit on that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think initially, and it triggered when you explained that Nisa and Veronica, you were letting new artists come in. Of course, I had to submit, and there were some judges, and my nervousness was able to discuss with Veronica, but I think I did okay. It wasn't as bad as I thought. And that was my very first Zoom. So the idea that, okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I've been practicing. So the main thing is, do I have a good connection? So I do. So, and well, my phone works, so I did. That it's about, for me, finding a place that you can deal with whatever is happening in the world. I don't know about mental, health and self-healing. So I've been exploring, and I have been going back flashbacks since talking. That's why this year, since 2018, has been cathartic for me, because decades of just painting and working. And around 2012, I thought, well, what is a artist career, or what is that about? I didn't even know what the word practice was until I was doing some art festivals starting 2016 or 2006. 2006 here in Atlanta. And then around 2012, I came across an artist. I explained a little bit in my last Zoom. His name was El Ganobi. He's an Egyptian here. And long story short is I hung out with him. And one day he's like, oh, I have a show in a gallery, but I'm also with a group of artists. So I joined this group of artists where I initially met Laura Hathaway. And it was really interesting because I rarely talked, but it was a good place, which I'm going to try to encourage artists because we all have different paths and experience. And my big issue was I was so caught up in my anxiety and I didn't know who I was. And you're told by society, oh, you want to be an artist? Oh, you're a marginalized community. You're in the marginalized community. Oh, you're this and that. And I just go, okay, well, everything's stacked against me. Well, one day, and it clicked when I heard a discussion on a video with Eckhart Tolle. I hope I say his name right. Trying to explore the spirituality side or this other way of thinking and living. And he said when he was younger, he had an experience where depressed and sad. And I don't think I was depressed, but like melancholy. And I didn't feel connected to anything other than art. And he said one day he was really down and depressed, and he stepped away from his mind and he said, okay, why am I like this? That triggered me. I was 19, I was drawing in Alaska, and I thought, well, everything's against me. I don't know. I've heard, and so, but it's normal for teenagers. But what helped me was, as I was drawing, I completely forgot what was happening. And I go, oh, and I also, my mother's Catholic. I remember hearing stories, or also, like Michelangelo and that era where Venetian painters and all them, they were commissioned by the churches and all that. And I remember hearing a story saying, well, these specific artists were given a gift and from God or whoever, and it would funnel through your head. And I visualize this funnel going through your head, your brain, through your eyes, and then it funnels through your heart and through your hand, and it gives them that gift. And I thought to myself, well, I have that energy. And I'm not saying I'm Michelangelo, but I go, well, what is that energy? I go, what is that thing? And so that's what got me like the next drawing and the next project. And after high school, I just kept doing projects. I joined ceramics classes in town. We moved to Alaska. I drove to Anchorage, Fairbanks, Alaska, which is 30 minutes from the biggest city. And they had a university, and I did raku, I did ceramics. And I like to work fairly big, and I love ceramics, but it's clunky and big. And the easiest thing for me was pencil and poster. So I'm very practical, and just finding things in secondhand stores. And as a house painter, I get discarded paints. And I thought, well, there's glues and, just things like that. A lot of the toys I used as a house painter, caulking, and just seeing what works together, which translates into me that these marginalized materials, people, can be other than what man has defined. And again, I'm still working through all this. So this next year, I'm going to focus on, like I said, cathartically transferring. Now I feel like a teenager. Now I feel like I can focus. Now I feel like I can study. And I always thought I couldn't remember anything academically wise, but I'm now reaching out to artists that I'm gravitating towards: Jack Whitten, Nick Cave, Mike Kelly. But their stories are what, Agnes Martin. And I've mentioned this several times in different videos, is Judith Scott. And what blew me away from her, and also the folk art self-taught artist, is that she was 40 and sent to a insane asylum. At age 40, her twin sister took her out, put her in an art program. A year later, she started to grab yarn, and you might be familiar with the work, but she'd wrap things she would take from other people in the facility, but they scanned it, and there's like rings in there and stuff. But in the mental institution, they took things away from her. So she didn't go to school. She was mute and deaf. So she her work is, so there's something about this energy field. So I feel less stressed about, I'm going back to self-educate myself, but I'm also excited about meeting artists. And again, I say this because as far as other shy or repressed artists or nervous, you're not going to get along with everyone, or no, not everyone's going to respond to you, which is okay. I used to take it so personally. But I go, well, when somebody does respond, I'm excited. I want to be, connected with them on different levels. I'm better one-on-one. So this is actually interesting because I don't feel overwhelmed. I'm in my comfort zone. And artists know what I'm talking about as far as writers and all that. You need time alone. So even though the COVID situation is scary and the political, it's always been there. 25 years ago, HIV was still around or just starting somewhat. There's always been political, and from a marginalized community, I pick up on that. And so there's the Rodney King beating, and then there's Matthew Shepard. So I'm in my studio. Well, I'm in a different place, and I think we all can evolve and change and learn from each other. And that's why I'm hoping like this red and blue thing, which I think in the future is going to go magenta, is probably a color I'm going to explore more.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for elaborating and letting us get to know you. And this has been fun. I do want to thank everyone for joining us, and thank you, Jeff, for essentially letting us hang out with you and get to know you.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.